want to thank everyone for coming out today for our presentation, A Graceful Exit on Business Continuity and Exit Planning. My name is Roxann Smithers with Smithers and Umewabo. We are a full-service law firm for entrepreneurs and business owners, providing litigation, dispute resolution services, corporate law support, as well as employment law and employee benefits. And we're very excited to have partnered with Robroy Wiley of Smart Plan Investing to give you guys a little bit of information today about what you need to be thinking about to prepare to exit your business. And we've looked at three main topics that are the primary ways that you're going to exit your business. And that is the sellout, preparing your business for purchase, the cash out, preparing your business to fund your retirement, and the peace out, preparing your business for an involuntary exit. We both have a real passion for working with business owners, working with entrepreneurs to help them progress their businesses and also help them to make sure that their business provides the lifestyle and the life that they want to have. You have to take into consideration that exit planning also improves the value of your business while you're in your business. It's not something to think about right when you're ready to exit, because you can't necessarily always predict when that's going to happen. It helps you to turn what is often a job into an actual business that can stand on its own. And that is the difference between creating income for yourself and creating wealth for yourself. So we want to thank everybody for coming out today. Robroy and I are going to toggle back and forth as we go through these topics. Feel free at any point to ask us questions if you have them. We're going to hit pretty much four main topic areas under our scenarios. So we're going to give you a little bit of advice about management strategies. Robroy is going to give you some advice in terms of the financial strategies you need to take into consideration. I'm, of course, going to give you the legal strategies. And then throughout the presentation and at the end of each section, we'll give you some examples that we've seen with clients that we've worked with or situations that we've seen in the public sphere that kind of highlight the issues that we're looking at. We've got a little bit of information about ourselves. We're very excited. Robroy is incredibly accomplished, financial planner and financial advisor. And we're going to start with the sellout, preparing your business for purchase. One of the things you need to think about is when sellers plan ahead, there are small and easy changes they can make to add value to their business. By failing to plan, many of these business owners are leaving money on the table. That's the key to this. The decisions and the ideas that we're going to bring forth and the advice that we're going to give you adds concrete value to your business monetarily and can also add value to your life as a business owner. So we'll let Robroy get started.
Okay. Well, thank you, Roxann. As Roxann said, I am Robroy Wiley. I'm an investor coach and I'm a business exit planning strategist. So my goal is to work with the business owner to maximize the value of their business, but also to minimize the risk to their personal and business assets throughout the process. And to give you kind of a scope of with exit planning, it usually takes anywhere from a minimum of 1.5 years to 3 to 5 to 7 years. The owner really needs the goal to become inconsequential to the business, that if the owner is removed, that the business operates on its own. The reason for that, as we go through the different exit scenarios, if you are selling it to a third party, more than likely it's going to be either to a private equity firm or to a family office. Those are the two key players in that market, and they do not want to have to run the company. They expect that whatever they purchase, that the company is going to run itself and be able to sustain it and grow over time. And then also with exit planning, it's kind of interdisciplinary as far as the different key players that come into helping the business owner planning it out. So you have your insurance person, your estate planner, your business attorney, also somebody like me, financial advisor, or also your CPA and accountant. Those are usually the main players. Also your business evaluator and or business broker, or also your commercial banker, who would be somewhere in the process of facilitating with the sale. Won't really discuss the other two options, which are transferring to a key employee or transferring to another family member. That is a kind of a different ball of wax as far as those transitions. But really with management strategies, I want to share with you a story of actually two construction companies to give you a contrast of how one used exit planning to benefit and maximize the sale of her business, and how one who decided that they were going to go alone and face the consequences of just doing it on their own. So they're both construction companies, and one was owned by Wendell Heath, and the other one was owned by Aspen Taylor. Both in non-competing markets. However, they're both valued at $5 million, and both owners wanted to exit out of their business at $8 million. So both had been in their respective businesses between 25 and 30 years. So Wendell Heath, he mentioned every year to his CPA that he was planning on exiting his business at tax time. And she would recommend, hey, at some point you need to transition your business entity from a C Corp to an S Corp. And he was like, well, I'll get around to it at some point. And he bought lots of equipment, was working 60 hours. Aspen Taylor, on the other hand, she mentioned it to her CPA. Her CPA said, you need to get a business exit planning strategist and help you coordinate all this. And the business exit planning strategist came in and helped her get a management coach to assess her management team, also to set up how her exit through the 5 to 7 years that she had planned out, how to deal with the transitions that needed to happen. She wound up actually acquiring 2 smaller construction companies, which added value, and we'll talk a little bit later how that helped her. And then both of the construction companies went through the 2008 economic crisis. So Wendell Heath had to lay off most of his employees, and his equipment sat still for most of that time. Aspen Taylor, because she had implemented a lot of the financial strategies and she weathered that time, and she didn't have to lay off as many employees. And that when she did exit her business, she sold it for $15 million and received $10 million post-tax. So working with planning out and implementing the exit strategy really helped her exit on her terms, but also to give her the amount of money that she wanted out of the business. So that's why the first point is building a team that can survive without you. Essentially, that your management team is very strong and can make decisions and handle client issues or situations that arise without really having to consult with you or having the owner needed to be in there fixing the problem. Also, too, Aspen Taylor actually wound up reducing her amount of hours over time down to like 30 hours per week. Interesting enough, most of the time when an owner starts to plan and work with an exit planning strategist, we have a tendency to wind up reducing the business owner's hours in the business, and also wind up increasing their revenue, because they start to look at the business and their exit as a fuel to kind of a destination to increase the value of their life. The second point, build a clientele that can survive without you. So what that really essentially means is that the clients aren't attached to the owner, that they have the relationships with both managers and with employees. when a third party is going to come in and possibly buy the business, they're going to look at your clients and they're going to determine statistically, what percentage of them will leave when the business transitions. If they are leery or see that, well, one of the key accounts is attached and taken care of by the owner, they may either possibly lower their offer or decline because they know that either if 10 or 20% of the revenue of the business is going to go down because that client would probably more than likely leave. And also to build processes and procedures that the manager's employees can systematically replicate, having a standard of procedures. Roxann will talk, I know, a little further about more in detail on that on the legal side, but having a system and procedures that the new owners can see how the business is able to generate the revenue that they're doing, and that it's easy for managers, employees to facilitate and I want to say copy it, but to follow it. Does anybody have any questions? No. Okay.
No, go
Okay. So don't hesitate to stop me if you have any questions. So on financial strategies, if you remember, Aspen Taylor had acquired 2 smaller construction companies because to increase value, one of the recommendations, not all the time, but is to acquire other companies to build up your value, build up your clientele, also maybe sometimes to secure technology that you may not have access to or it's proprietary to one specific business that you want to get your hands on and that will increase the value of your business. Or they may have processes that are very specific to their business and to their clientele that are unique and that you want to pull those, own those processes. It also helps to increase the transfer or build up the value in the business for where the owner would like to sell the business. And then also making sure that cash flow is a priority. That is one of the items that the owner or the buyers are going to look for. A very consistent cash flow in the business, and will the cash flow continue over the next year, 2, 3, 4, 5 years. Also, one of the interesting things is when it does private equity or a family office makes an offer on the business these days, they have already done their return on investment. So if they offer you, because in the past I've heard from some business owners like, I didn't realize that they were going to offer me so much amount of money. It used to be owners overestimated what their business was worth. Now it seems to happen that they're kind of underestimating what the actual worth of their business is, and they're getting offers that are way higher. And one of the bankers who was facilitating one of the sales asked the private equity firm. He said, after the sale, because I didn't want to say this, but I thought you guys overpaid for that business. The guy says, no, we got a return on investment in 6 months. We already knew what that business was going to generate, and because they made not a ridiculous offer, but they offered the owner $17 million, and he was willing to sell the business for $8 million. And when they put it on the auction block, they were like, "What? That's crazy." So they've done their due diligence, and they know what the return on the investment is going to be. And then one key element, of course, is planning, because along with the financial strategies and working with the owner, and I'll touch on this in the next segment in cashing out, dealing with retirement strategies there. you're wanting to plan out how you get closer to your goal. So, any questions so far? Check. Yes.
So, this might be a stupid question.
Oh, no.
I have no idea. But you mentioned about acquisition of other companies,
Mhm.
growth. If you're sort of on the other end of that, and is there value for yourself or for your company to be acquired in some way?
Yes. Yeah, it can be. I mean, that would be could be a part of an exit strategy too. That if your goal is, I want to be acquired by a bigger business, and you have in mind 3 or 4 players that are bigger in your market, and you want to set yourself up. In some cases, too, relationships will get built between the broker, the business, and those potential bigger players in the market, so that when the business owner decides, hey, I want to sell, they already know, okay, we've got three possible buyers. We'll call them first before the business is, I don't want to say placed on the auction block, but a lot of them dealing with private equity go on an auction system to see who gives them gives the highest price. Being acquired also, the process when they start to do their due diligence and compliance, it can be and this is where a lot of times I come into play, because I'm doing a lot of whole handing with the owner, because they will dig into your financials, talk to your management team, and it's a grueling process. That time period before the sale actually happens, I will tell them, just think of the amount of money that you're leaving with, what you can do afterwards. Just get through that process. So, hopefully that answered your question.
Well, so that was more the
Okay.
exit strategy, right?
Yeah.
So, but there's no acquiring and then you continue in the business.
You can.
Oh,
You can. There could be a strategy that they either keep you on as like an employee or a consultant. In some cases, if the owner's name, brand, or the image is centered around the owner, they will do either some type of licensing agreement or work out where they can use the owner's face or image or brands in the marketplace, pay the estate a royalty or the person a royalty, or they might say, we want to buy your company, but we would like you to, work 20 hours a month and come in and consult, because we know that you have the expertise and the skills for whatever particular part of their business. So there are other avenues. There's a little more straightforward with an exit. So I turn it back over to Roxann.
All right. So once you've sort of thought about the management strategies that you need to take into consideration and the financial strategies that you need to take into consideration, there are obviously some legal considerations and planning that can be done in advance, as well as things to contemplate once you're actually in the process of a sale, whether it's a full sale, a partial sale, you're going to stay involved in some form or fashion. One of the big things for people to make sure that they understand are the differences between an asset purchase and a business sale. I've seen with clients where they think that the individual is interested in purchasing the whole business, lock, stock, and barrel. If you think of it as a house, they're going to come, they're buying your house, the furniture, they're buying everything that's associated with the home. Whereas oftentimes a savvy investor may be interested in what's called an asset purchase, which means they're going to kind of cherry pick the best parts of your business, purchase those items, and either incorporate them into an existing business or start a new entity. They may do that because they want pieces, because they're planning their own exit and they're just adding value to their business. They may be looking at whether or not there are a lot of liabilities associated with your business. And so they don't want to take all of that on, and they just want to take the best parts. And that's more of a think of that as an estate sale. They're coming into your house and they're going to take the sofa, they're going to take the refrigerator, they're going to take those things. They're not going to take the rickety car in the garage, but they will take the lawnmower because it's new. So that's sort of the difference between an asset purchase and a business sale, and understanding those differences because they are critical. So you want to understand, one of the big things that you particularly have to understand with an asset purchase, which is what happens a lot of the time, is what happens to realized and potential liabilities. Those can be outstanding bills of the business, or those can be potential legal claims of the business. Something you'll hear a lot, both Robroy will mention it and I'll mention it, is a process called due diligence. And that can be a time period either before an offer is made or while you're in this, sort of call it an engagement phase, where you're still kicking the tires. You may have a letter of an intent saying we're interested in your business, but we want 60 to 90 days to ask questions, to sort of get in there. Even if you put a contract on a house, I like the house analogy. It's that inspection period where they go in and see if you've got termites, if that stain on the wall is from a leak or if it's just a stain. Look at the floors, the things like that are going to happen. During that time period, whatever information they gather can either bring the price up for your business or bring the price down for your business. As you've seen, if you've ever purchased a home, particularly not a new construction, if you've purchased an existing home or sold an existing home, those things come into bear. You'll want to make sure that there's an understanding of what is included and what is excluded from that sale. Those liabilities, as I said, could be a legal claim. If you are in the midst of litigation, either as a plaintiff or an attorney, either as a plaintiff or the defendant, whether or not the company is going to maintain that and the new buyer is going to take over that claim, or if that's something that you're going to have to take over and maintain on your own when the sale is complete. That's something to think about, and that can also impact the price. If you're in a business where you have potential liabilities out there, you're selling a product or you're providing something else where someone could realize an injury down the road and there's a certain amount of time that they have to bring a legal claim against you, the purchaser is going to want to know that, and they're going to have to figure out, as part of the negotiation of your deal, how to handle those claims. If they buy the whole business, are they going to be liable from the date of the purchase forward for any existing claims? Will you have to maintain liability for those? Will you maintain insurance for those? There are different strategies, but these are particularly important questions that need to be thought about when you are either doing a sale, a wholesale sale, or an asset purchase. So there are legal factors that are going to add value to your business in a sale, and there are also things that add value to your business on a day-to-day basis. Favorable contracts that are assignable by the owner. So those can be, I've got 3 types of contracts that we can be looking at. Those can be your employee/consultant contracts. Those can be your customer contracts and your service provider contracts. So you'll be looking at, during that due diligence period, they may want to see if your business is service-based and you have contracts. Well, the key thing is, do you have contracts for people in all of these positions? Yes, value up. No, could be value down. And then what's in those contracts? If you have favorable pricing with either a customer or a service provider, what's the term for that? Are you under a year contract with them, a multi-year contract where that price is locked in? Because as Robroy mentioned, the investor or the purchaser is looking at whether the revenue that you're projecting in your business, how that's going to hold out when they purchase the business and you either leave or you reduce your role. And some of that's tied to whether your costs are fixed in your service contracts and whether or not your revenues are guaranteed to a certain level because you've got customers locked in for a certain number of years going forward. And then whether or not you've got key employees or consultants under contract. If your business is based on working with independent contractors or you have delegated properly a fair amount of your work to employees, or you're planning to do that. You want to build up a business that's going to have employees. What are the terms that they're under? What are the limitations on what they can do in terms of leaving with your information, in terms of communicating with your customers if they're no longer your employee, and in terms of competing with you once they have been with you for a while and understand sort of your secret sauce. Whether or not you've got them secured can add value to your business and be attractive for a potential buyer. On the same point, your intellectual property. If you have anything that you created, whether it's a product or a process that is patentable, whether you have trademarks either on your name, your logo, recipes, any sort of things that you do that can be trademarked and that are value, or even if you copyrighted your materials, and if you are, if you're producing written materials or other artistic materials, if you have protected that information and those assets, that adds value to the business and adds value to your asking price. And that also protects you as you are operating in your business going forward at all. So you want to make sure those pieces are there. And part of that key is if you have developed those assets before you started the business, and so you may have gotten a patent and the patent's in your name, those are the sort of legal cleanup things that you have to do where you need to transfer ownership of that patent to the actual business. An investor or purchaser is going to want to know that that's an actual asset of the business and not your personal asset. Otherwise, you've got to transfer that, you've got to do a license, you've got to handle those sort of things. And those are things that people forget about until the last minute. It's like, oh, wait, we've got to make sure we transfer this, or we've got to do a license agreement or something like that to make sure it's something that's actually owned by your business. Then the cleanup items, making sure that your corporate documents are in order. Some basics that a lot of people miss. Are you in fact incorporated? Do you have your operating agreement or your bylaws, depending on whether you're an LLC or you are an S Corp or a C Corp? Do you have a partnership agreement which lays out the structure for how your business is maintained, how a purchase can be done, how you can exit the business, how your partners or anyone else can exit the business? It's important to have bylaws and to have an operating agreement, even if you are a solo business owner. It's still something that you want to have and that a purchaser is going to look at and want to know about. Let's see. Factors that can reduce your value. So we said the converse of everything that I said that are positives for the selling of your business, there are things that are going to impact your value in a negative way. You've got those claims that haven't been resolved. If you've got letters, lawyers threatening to sue on different issues, you haven't resolved those things. Those are legal issues that can impact the value. And you'll have to either negotiate a price reduction. Sometimes the strategy is that you have to put a certain amount of the purchase price in an escrow for a certain number of years or a certain amount of time. You may have to pay for tail insurance or other insurance to cover those claims if they come to fruition. So that can leave you kind of tied up and leave some of your money tied up. Or conversely, because you're ready to sell and you want to, cross these T's and dot these I's, that may motivate you to resolve issues and settle issues that you might have otherwise let linger. So that may mean offering somebody who owes you funds, offering them a discounted rate to get that resolved, or offering to settle a claim that you think you've got a good possible defense on, but you don't necessarily have the time or the interest in pursuing that claim down the road. You may go ahead and settle that. So those are legal issues that are going to impact either the timing of your sale or going to impact the price of your sale and how much you net at the end of the day. As we said, failing to secure those employees or employers or those customers. Non-competes, non-solicitations, and non-disclosures are not just for your employees or independent contractors. You may want to have sort of complementary provisions in your customer contracts so that your customers aren't sort of ferreting away your employees or deciding that they like your service so much they're just going to bring it in-house and do it themselves and use all of your information and use all of your processes to do so. And they may see your sale as a right time to sort of make that transition. So you can also have non-disclosure, non-compete, non-solicitation provisions in your service contracts with your customers to sort of protect your business on both ends. Accounts receivable, depending on how you fund your business and how your revenues run through your business, you may have some customers or clients who are behind in their payments. And depending on how much of a leash you have given them, that can impact the value. If those are good credit-worthy clients that have the funds, that's going to be something that's a little bit more attractive to a purchaser than if you've got older, more than 90 days out there and they're individuals and the rate of them paying is sort of low historically, then your purchaser is not going to want to give you full credit for those accounts receivables. So it depends on the quality of those accounts receivables, whether they're under contracts, depending on the business that you're in, whether those are secured debts or not. If you're selling equipment or some other product that you can have a bit of an attachment to until they pay, or if you're in construction and you have a place where you can put a lien or a bond, those are different types of debts or accounts receivable than unsecured, where you have provided a service already and you're trying to get paid for that service, or you've provided a consumable product and now you're trying to get paid in arrears for that consumable product. So those are even things to think about from a management standpoint when you're thinking about how you manage your cash flow. Are you paid in advance or are you paid as you go so that you don't have a lot of bad accounts receivables? And then a final piece is any encumbrances that you might have on your assets. So that means if you have equipment that's financed and there's a lien on that equipment until you pay off that debt, those are things that'll have to be cleared up when you sell. So you'll have to factor those in. It's just like if you sell your house, the mortgage company wants to get paid first and you get what's left after the mortgage has been paid, and they're always sort of the third party in that dance. The same thing can happen with other assets. If you've gotten loans or financing, you've probably had to pledge assets of the business, and sometimes personal assets, particularly for small business owners who have to either provide a personal guarantee for any loans or financing that you receive. Often your personal assets are part of that package. So you want to take those into consideration and make sure that you're getting enough to resolve those encumbrances and that they can be resolved. Okay. On the legal side, some of the examples that we've experienced in terms of assisting our clients includes a client that was involved with an asset purchase and lost some value on that asset purchase because the supplier contracts were not assignable. The supplier got wind of the sale because if your contract does not have a provision that unilaterally gives you a right to assign it, then you've got to get the permission of the other party to that contract to either assign that contract or you know that your buyer is going to have to enter into a new contract. Well, depending on how favorable those terms were, your supplier may see, hey, the market's changed, I can get more for this, and want to raise your prices and raise the price on your purchaser. And so the purchaser is going to factor that higher cost to run the business into their return on investment and into their value. and they're going to subsequently want to lower their price a bit. Another situation where the client did factor in some pending legal claims and had to discount the purchase price. Their goal was to get out clean from the business. So they didn't want to have to deal with anything going forward. So in order to do that, they were willing to give a discount on the price of the business so that the new owner would take over responsibility for that pending litigation. They negotiated where they would agree to assist with the defense, help them either find documents or be available to testify, but they did not want to have any more responsibility for taking the lead on handling that litigation. And so they were willing to trade price or value on the business in order to do that. So those are some of the legal strategies that you want to think about when you are selling a business or even preparing your business to be in an attractive position. Because you never know when, as your question laid out, another business that's planning to exit might be interested in adding your business to their portfolio. And you want to be in a position where you're ready to strike and take advantage of that opportunity when it comes your way. Any questions on the legal points or some of the legal considerations that you have to keep in mind if you're going to sell your business? And so as we wrap up, we also just want to remind everybody that the things that you do to prepare your business for an exit are also a lot of the things that you just want to do to have a healthy business and to have a prosperous business while you're in it. It also gives you some ideas about the difference between creating a job for yourself and creating a business that can stand on its own. And as I said at the beginning, a job creates income. A business that can stand on its own, you're creating wealth for yourself. So we want to thank you for coming and thank you for participating. And you've got your handouts. If you guys have additional questions for us, you've got our contact information. Please feel free to reach out to us. And here's our contact information again. Thank you.
Thank you.